Jai viewers, welcome to one more episode of Global Eye Talks. I am Shivam Shandilya, Military and Foreign Policy Analyst at Global Eye Intelligence Network. Today we are going to talk about the Siliguri corridor and Bangladesh. It's in news, and we all know that what Mohammed Yunus, the Professor Mohammed Yunus, has said about our Siliguri corridor. It is also called as Chicken's Neck. It's a narrow strip of land in West Bengal, India, and that connects northeastern states to the rest of the country. It's measured nearly roughly 60 kilometers in length and just 22 kilometers at the narrowest point. And today, again, we are happy to have with us Brigadier Neil John, Sena Medal, security and military intelligence professional with 33 years of experience in strategic leadership. He was posted to Manipur as a deputy general officer commanding a mountain division, and he regularly writes and shares his views on geopolitical and geostrategic matters across various platforms. And we are happy to have you again, sir, on our platform.
Well, happy to be here, Shiv, and hopefully I make some sense out of the entire problem that we are now looking at Bangladesh and the influx of the Chinese in Bangladesh. So let's see what sense we can make to the discussion.
Yes, sir. So, sir, first, brief, I would like to understand. I was listening to the total interview of Professor Yunus, and I could not understand that he was sitting in China, addressing people of business community of China, looking for investment in Bangladesh, and talking about India's northeast. Was there an ulterior motive? What is the reason? Please explain, sir.
You see what's happening. Let's understand one logic. Why do you think China is a friend to the Pakis? What do you think?
So to balance India.
Oh no! That is a very small little game. That's a
Okay.
small little game. You see,
What
China
are
doesn't need much to balance India, and the fact of the matter is that we Indians want to make China look like a very big adversary. Fine, because of our conundrum of thought processes of 1962. Fine, we lost the war of 1962 not because of our nation's military. We did not lose the war because of the soldiers at the borders. We didn't lose the war because we didn't think it through. We lost the war because of strategy and planning, because of the politics and the intelligence failures that have occurred. And let me tell you, in 1962 also, the India's move forward policy, we went and occupied areas on the watershed, which was demarcated by the McMahon line, without even thinking about it. Because Mr. Menon told Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, our Prime Minister at that time, that we need to go and occupy these places, and we went without giving it a thought as to how the Chinese would react. Hindi chini bhai Hindi chini bhai never worked for us. The Chinese gave us a warning. They told us constantly, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. We didn't listen, and we still went on with our policies. And what did we do? We went and sat down in areas where there were nobody ever before. Because, see, let's face facts. Even the Chinese, there's nobody there. This started happening after 1962, and when we started having forward positions up there. Till date, till 5 years back, the Chinese did not have any forward locations. No deployments, no trenches, no what you call as the bunkers, nothing. There was no deployment of the artillery. They only came there south of the Sangpo River, and they trained their armies there because that was amicable and beautiful training ground. Fine? And then they went back. Next is they built roads. Today they have billeting positions, they have infrastructure, and the Chinese infrastructure at the borders today is amazing. They still do not have defensive positions because the Chinese do not want to get into a battle of defense, because they feel that if they have to do anything to India at any given time, it has to be offense. They have to get down to launching the war in the time that they choose, in the place that they choose, and with the wherewithal that they choose. The entire escalatory continuum of that war, the Chinese want to control it. How this war is going to percolate and what is the time of instant. The Chinese are very clear. Unlike the Russians or unlike the Israelis, the Chinese know at what stage what they have to achieve and leave adequate amount of window to end the war. Right? It's called the end state management within stages of operations, which we constantly keep harping and thinking about, but never implement. But now coming back to your issue and the question that I asked, why is China so interested in Pakistan? China is not interested in Pakistan because Pakistan is a failed state. You know it. It is predominantly controlled by the military, and it fluctuates between political governance and military dictatorship. And yet, where there is no professed GDP, it's a failing state. They don't have industry of reckoning. They don't have agriculture of reckoning. All the import and export are minimum goods which China can get from any other nation in the world. China has made inroads into India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Africa. You talk about it everywhere, the US. And why do you think? But totally, China gives Pakistan a very friendly treatment. It is balancing India is only one small little percentage of the entire thing. His major interest is accessibility to a seaport
Agency. Go other ports, sir.
in the Indian Ocean region. You see, why is Balochistan so important to China? Balochistan is so important to China because the seaport, because of Godar, of Pasni. These seaports are so important to China. They want to get their seaport right together. Karachi, the Gwadar seaport, the Pasni seaport, and then get access to it. That's why they built that huge, unmaintainable highway called the Karakoram Highway, which for 8 months in a year is inaccessible. It is accessible only for 4 months a year. But they still invested into it. They built that huge highway because they wanted to get down to the port and have an alternate means just in case they do not have access to the South China Sea. Shivam, just think about it. Who dominates the South China Sea?
So China.
No, sorry, that is what the Western world wants you to believe.
Okay. So
See,
basically, US Navy.
yes, the US, the Japanese, the
Okay.
Filipinos, the Vietnamese, they're all there. And China's naval improvement and China's naval positivity, or you say this manifestation of a naval intent, only started 10 years back. Before that, China didn't even concentrate on a navy. And even today, when they talk about a navy, they have built a huge submarine force. They have 2 to 3 naval war carriers, that is carrier battle groups. But all of them are not battle exposed, or they're not operationally actually reliable. And the major focus in the South China Sea is what? It is Taiwan and
Yes,
this
sir.
small little island chain that they have, which Philippines and they claim together. So you see, the problem is the South China Sea. At any given time, if it is blocked by the Japanese and the confluence of US, Japanese, Philippines, Vietnam, etc., the small little crack that you see, he's not going to get any products of his, any trade of his, anything going into the South China Sea if this blockade has been established. It is called blocking of the sea lines of communication, the SLOCs.
Yes.
Fine. If that happens, so he needs an alternate. So the alternate was Pakistan. Now, since the
So that is
alternate
why.
was
Sorry to interject, sir. So that is why the reason that this whole nine dash line is there for the Chinese because they
absolutely,
want to. Okay.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
the
Well,
Western powers are making us believe that Chinese are all over the South China Sea and there is no freedom of navigation and everything.
no, nothing. See, South China. See, you have something called the brown waters and something you have the blue waters. But this discussion is not about that. So we'll take it on
Yes,
some other day. The brown
sure.
water says that it is your internal waters which are very well under your control. But the blue waters is international waters. Anybody can do anything at that way. Do the Chinese have any say there? No, they don't have. These US ships, the seventh fleet of the US, in the what is called the US Pacific Fleet, right now also based out of the South China Sea. So what are you talking about? All the ships of Philippines who constant, by the way, Philippines sends the largest amount of food products in the form of bananas to China. It goes through those seas. They are never blocked. You see, what we get fed is what the Western media wants you to believe. Now, how interesting is India to China? For China, India is the southern neighbor, the largest trading partner in the vicinity, and the largest consumer of all Chinese goods in Asia. आप दिल्ली में देख लो करोल बाग, only Chinese goods. मुंबई में देख लो जहां भी जाओगे, only Chinese goods. So we are a huge amount of consumer market for the Chinese. They control the flow of the Brahmaputra river also. Fine. They were building dams and all that, but they have always said within the building of the dam also that the cusecs of water that would be provided to India would always be maintained. See, they are very, very clear in their mind. They will not raise the threshold beyond your tolerance. They will never raise the threshold beyond your tolerance levels. Who are flying? We have been told that the Chinese are flying drones into our area.
Yes, sir.
Right? The fact of the matter is, they have flown the drones into the area. They have mapped the entire Arunachal. They have mapped the entire northeast, which any military power, in its good senses, would have done or should have done. Why didn't we do it? Why didn't we do it? Haven't we mapped every little obstacle system or terrain of Pakistan? I know of every band in Pakistan. I know of every DCB in Pakistan, ditch Kambad. I know of every passage in Pakistan because we mapped it. Because we know that somewhere down the line there's an existential threat from Pakistan. In the same way, the Chinese feel, well, the Indians will not do anything on that. Do we have the capability to fight Chinese? Let's answer this question.
Um, so you are the perfect one, but we are made to believe that we can withstand but not actually win the whole purpose. And
Yeah.
so basically,
So
you
it's
can
not a,
say
it's
no.
not it's not a 1962 anymore.
Yes,
We
sir.
will give the Chinese a bloody nose.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but our economics will not support the kind of war we need to fight with the Chinese. On the 13th or 14th day, we'll start running out of munitions. The amount of dead bodies and both sides that will go back will be an absolute disaster. For what? For hardly any territory that would be gained. Because even if the Chinese come and occupy territory which is already yours, because there are very few flashpoints of disruption in the northeast, they have to return it no matter what. The only thing is that the Arunachal Pradesh is yours. Because as soon as you start putting pressure on Aksai Chin being part of India and gifted by Pakistan to the Chinese, they start putting pressure that Arunachal belongs to them. But the people of Arunachal don't want them. The people of Arunachal don't even like them. They're totally Indians. But the fact of the matter is the Chinese will never cross a threshold level where they force you into something called a planned contact battle. That is the worst strategy, and the Chinese will not employ it. Why? Because the Chinese have got the means and the wherewithal. They can disrupt you in the cyber domain. Their cyber arm is so strong that they can get into your bedrooms and take videos out of you sleeping on your bed and snoring at any given time. Because most of the computer parts of even your iPhones, the assembly system on the assembly line is in China. Fine, all your phones that India makes today, the parts in your computer, your phones are all Chinese. Even your CCTV cameras, most of the parts are Chinese. So he's looking into your bedroom, he's looking into your train station, he's looking into your airport station, he's looking into your software, he's looking into every little app that you make. So he has the access to control you or dominate you or make your systems fail when he wants you to fail, to send you a clear message कि अगर तुम पंगे लोगे तो तुम्हारी हम मां बहन कर देंगे. So that is the kind of influx that he has in the cyber domain. Secondly, satellites domain. He's got satellite killers. We are so proud of our satellites in space, but he's got satellite killers. He'll use them when he wants to use them. You will not even know what hit them. Whether he destroys a satellite by a radio burst system, a laser burst system, or whatever system that he uses. Thirdly, he's got he's got so much in the form of raising a chaotic neighborhood. He can easily start building his bases in Bangladesh, like Bangladesh has offered him an ALG called the Advanced Landing Ground.
Yes, sir.
The Bangladeshis can easily give him a port. And what will he do with that? Like what you said before, balancing India. Just imagine his presence in Myanmar, his presence in Bangladesh, his presence in Sri Lanka, his presence in Pakistan. You're surrounded. The fact of the matter is that does he need to do anything more than that? He is just being something called a threat in being. You understand what threat in being is? Threat in being
Yes, sir.
is having so much of power that he visually puts this power in your doorstep to tell you that if you do anything that is aggressive in nature and aimed at him, he can use what he has put around you as his conduits to sort your issues out, to sort you out. So that is balancing. So he has put everything whenever they want to, in any form they want to, because our neighborhood itself is in a state of disruption. Look at our neighborhood today. We have got China on the north. Absolutely, he's not an enemy, but he's not a friend. When we've got Pakistan on the west,
Best.
who's neither an enemy, neither a friend. Then you've got Bangladesh, which is a system of complete turmoil right now, with radicalization leading the entire a profession, a procession, the professing of what they want as their governance. Then you have Nepal. Nepal is insignificant right now because they are playing both ways. They're saying yes to the
Yes, sir.
Chinese also, they're saying yes to
Yes,
the
sir.
Indians also.
Indians. Also.
Then you have Bhutan. Bhutan is a small country which has no say again. But the king of Bhutan is an ally of India. They're very strong with their friendship towards India, and this one guy we can actually rely on. Then you have Sri Lanka to the south. Sri Lanka is going to an economic war. And since Sri Lanka requires the money, anybody who's ready to pump in that kind of money into Sri Lanka, he's going to be holding their hand, whether it's India, China, US, whomever you say. And he's going to bring that country who pumps in money into Sri Lanka onto his doorstep. Can you stop him? You can't stop him. Right? They would have planned it so well, they would hit you at the place of their own choosing, at the time of their own choosing. And with whatever they have to get at their own choosing to get absolute victory. They will not come before that. Contact battle will be fought with the Chinese only if they have absolute victory. Otherwise, they will not get involved in a contact battle. And if at the end of it all, they can actually make sense of that entire war. If it is going to be just getting into Arunachal Pradesh and going and occupying a little land, then having a treaty and moving back, the Chinese are not interested. Why they're not interested is because in the Chinese dream, by 2049, they aim to be the world's best technologically and human resource army. They want to be bigger than the US. Why would he lose out on the funding, on the economy, on the technology by dispelling or dispersing his technology in a war with India or in a war with Taiwan? You think China does not have the capability or does not have the capability of getting into Taiwan and occupying it? They have, but they don't want to waste it. They don't want to waste it because they know the threshold level with Taiwan cannot be controlled by China because there are multi players involved. As soon as Taiwan is attacked, the world will get involved. That is, the US will get the backing of the entire NATO. The NATO will be involved. The Australians will be involved. The Japanese will be involved. The Filipinos will be involved, and India will be involved. The Russians will be involved. How India will be involved? The US will force you to deploy and maybe also create a situation where certain aggressive actions towards the south of China is shown by the Indians so that the deployment of Chinese troops happens and the Chinese do not have the same kind of intensity in the form of number of troops and number of equipment to fight at the Taiwanese border or in and around the coastal area of South China Sea. So you see the Chinese are intelligent. They're not like us. They don't go by media. They don't go by media shouting कि Pakistan को ये करो या POK ले लो, and we get very enamored by the entire language, and then in the parliament we talk about POK and all that stuff. The Chinese are not like that. Chinese are not like that. Secondly, India hides its technology. India hides its power. It does not want to come in the visible domain because, as Chanakya said, what you don't see, you get more scared of. Because it is the domain of invisibility and unattributability. But with China, they follow the principles of Sun Tzu. Where you need to walk, you need to jump. Where you need to jump, you need to run. The fact of the matter is, everything that China does is in the show window. Every technology of theirs is in the show window. They love to show off their capability they love to show their capability only to with one intent, to tell you that they have the capability to sustain and wage a war as and when they decide, and they can come to your doorstep as and when they want. So they're going to be instilling a psychological fear into you that they are far too ahead in modernization and technology than us. So they're on the face. So you see the exercises they carry out in Chengdu, in South Osampo, everywhere. Tanks, guns, aircrafts, helicopters. They get them all, and then there's a media campaign. The propaganda goes on. These are the Chinese marching to a tune. Absolute. See their hands, their legs. It's like robotic soldiers. See the infrastructure development all along our borders. They have billeting stations. That is the places where soldiers can come and live. And now what they're doing is they're promoting tourism in that area. All their forward positions, they get their tourists there to look into India, they have a barbecue there, and then they go back. They're opening street shopping centers there. They're opening resorts because they are not threatened by us, because they know that India by itself will never wage a war against the Chinese. It is not that we don't have the capability. We don't have the intent ourselves. We want to maintain peace with China at all costs. Our problem is not a Chinese aggression. Our problem is maintaining peace with China. Small skirmish level actions will keep happening. But that has been there for the last 100, 150 years. But that has never stopped and not going to stop. But anything beyond the threshold of skirmishes to get into a small battle, like limited war, they call it, is right now, as for me, a very, very far out statement until the Chinese have the dream of supremacy still existing with them.
But that's so that is the plan of the Chinese to have a supremacy all over the world. Well, will
Absolutely.
not that make us suffer for because of their dreams?
And you see, while India might give a lot of importance to Chinese because we find China a bigger enemy, more technologically enabled enemy, and having more money to fight a war. So naturally, where Pakistan, you can take care of him at any day. You and me both know it. But you have a small enemy and you have a big enemy. The small enemy, you know that with a little bit of readjustment of your troops and equipment, you can take care of this guy. But the big enemy that is there, that's the devil in the box, needs all your strength, needs all your infusion, needs all your concentration. And that's exactly what everybody's realized. While China might not be a threat to us, but we need to have adequate amount of troops, technology, deployment, and improvisation of border infrastructure in such a manner that if by case the Chinese try something, we have adequate amount of troops to not let it happen as what happened in 1962. But this time we'll give them a bloody nose. They will not even know what hit them. The Chinese are most scared of contact battles today. Our troops are acclimatized. There's something called acclimatization. Our troops are acclimatized. They're sitting there at the border. They occupy the defensive post. But in China, you'll not find anyone occupying defensive posts. They come, they establish tents and camps. They stay for 1 or 2 weeks and then they go back. The militating stations that are there in the neighborhood or the rear, they come and stay there for a longer time. But that's only a minute amount of strength. There are hardly 15 to 16 people in one billeting station. And that too, the turnover is every month. Every month they are changed. Well, our troops in the border areas, you talk about Bumla, or you talk about Sikkim, or you talk about anywhere, are there for a period of 2.5 years. The continuity is there, acclimatization is there, they can see by night, they have adequate amount of knowledge of the entire area. So we are better off to fight a contact battle than them as of now because we are not. See, 1962, we didn't have the adequate amount of clothing to sustain the cold. We didn't have adequate amount of what you call as weaponry and ammunition to beat the Chinese. We didn't have adequate amount of guns being deployed, fine, to take on the Chinese and their advances. We didn't have adequate amount of engineering stores to create artificial obstacles to stop the Chinese from assaulting us. And finally, we never used the air. We never used the air
Yes, sir.
force. So you see, in 1962, we went wrong in every way, in every way.
Yes. So you have opened a whole new dimension of a discussion about the Chinese. So
Absolutely,
we will
absolutely.
someday like to discuss about the vulnerabilities of the Chinese because Chinese are very good in showing their strengths. But the vulnerabilities you talked about, whether they, whether they will be able to have a war with Taiwan and be afraid of Indian action in the southern part. And what will be the vulnerabilities that we will definitely like to discuss with you later on in some other podcast. But about this Bangladeshi thing, sir.